Good afternoon, folks. This is not a reflection from Valley of Vision, but it is a reflection from Psalm 23. And I was sort of inspired by some comments from Chad Bird in his little book, In the Shadow of the Cross, a devotion for Lent. And obviously, Psalm 23 is one of the most famous and most beloved. And toward the end of the psalm, the author says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And these are words that should be comforting to us today. We don't like to think about the shadow of the valley of death, but we hear so much in the news right now about the reality of death. It's hard to ignore it, whether we want to or not. And the biblical reality is that we are going to die, that we are finite creatures. And in one sense, death should not be a surprise to us, though it is sad. As believers, we know that we do not grieve as those who have no hope. Chad Bird makes the point that we don't all suffer the same way as we approach death. That going out of this life is very different. And we all have heightened concerns right now in the midst of this pandemic, because we can understand how dangerous it is and how distressing and painful death can be. We're hearing stories about the numbers of people who are dying, and it's not simply the older folks, but also in other age groups. And we don't obviously approach death the same way emotionally, in terms of even a sense of preparedness. How do we prepare for it? And I think one way is to look at the reality of what we see in Psalm 23 and elsewhere in Scripture. And that is that knowing that one day we will walk that valley of death. And we don't know what that's going to look like for us. But there is one truth that unites us, and that is that our good shepherd will be there with us. He walks with us. His rod and staff are there for protection and mercy and comfort. Yes, comfort even in the midst of going through that process of the shadow of death, because his comfort is knowing that we are meant for something else, and that the Good Shepherd will lead us to that something else. Chad Bird makes this great point. Our companion bears crucifixion scars and has wiped the dust of his own tomb from his feet. We fear no evil, but the conqueror of evil and death holds our hands. So in this time, as we hear so much of the issue of death in the news, this is a time for us as believers to remember that we have one who walks with us, and he bears crucifixion scars, and he has wiped the dust of his own tomb from his feet.